Dave.
Ian.
I'm exhausted.
Ian. I've gone full on Abe Vigoda.
All right, so here's a couple of things. So first of all, this is the Team Clearcoat podcast.
It is.
This is episode something.
Yes.
And we today we'll be recapping the 2017 Denver Auto Show.
Yep.
The hottest ticket in the nation.
You're Ian.
I'm Ian. That over there is Dave.
Right here.
Let's get right into it. Because for, a couple of observations before we get into the car stuff. First of all, that is my quota for interpersonal communications for, I'm going to say, the next decade.
Yeah. I was texting my girlfriend and we were talking about how exhausting it can be to be on. You know?
Right.
When you have to be on.
Yeah, and I felt like we had to be on.
Right.
We were on for like all day.
All day.
Because we did it. We recorded the podcast this morning.
Yeah. You came over early. I made you eggs. I made you dip eggs.
They were good.
Thanks, but
they were great.
That's my mom's recipe.
They were great.
Little bit of water in the pan.
That's such a good.
Cooks the top.
I like that technique.
This is the Team Clearcoat podcast. We're an automotive podcast.
Allegedly.
The egg podcast.
Yeah. And then we went to the auto show and basically this was our first real event as
credentialed
legitimate automotive journalists.
Credentialed press members, Ian.
Yeah.
We had little things that said press.
And I think we kind of felt like we had to be on.
Yes.
We were on it, and I think we did a good job.
I think we did too. We were approachable. A lot of people came up to us.
I am drained.
Yeah, me too, buddy.
Exhausted from that.
Yeah.
Because as I said to Nathan Adlin earlier, who we owe an unbelievable amount of gratitude towards. So if you're not aware of this fine young gentleman,
yes,
he is. He resides here in Denver. We did an interview with him a few months ago. He works for TFL Car and AutoWorks. He is an awesome dude, and we owe a great amount of gratitude towards him.
Definitely.
But I told him earlier that people are overrated.
Yes.
Just in general, they're overrated, and I stand by that as my overriding philosophy.
No, but Nathan went above and beyond anything we could ever ask him to do, and introduced us to tons of amazing people today.
Absolutely.
Members of the automotive press, people in the industry.
Yes.
Just tons of other people.
And everybody was super awesome and sweet. But I am tired.
Yeah.
From talking to all of them.
Ian, first of all, we have to talk about our ride share drive to the event.
Mm-hmm.
We were picked up in a Volkswagen Passat.
Yes.
The check engine light was on.
But you repeat yourself, sir.
You look up Volkswagen Passat and it just says
it's just a check engine light. That's the image search.
But I think our driver's name was Mike. He was actually really nice and really cool to talk to.
He was great.
And I'm sure that it's that Volkswagen Passat check engine light that like as soon as you clear it, it comes back.
Yes.
Right? Because I think the electrical issue is that the bulb just doesn't burn out. It does the opposite of burnout and just turns into perma on. If you disconnected the battery of the car, that light would still be on.
It's actually a source of renewable energy. The check engine light in a Volkswagen is actually the solution to all our energy needs.
It's
actually fusion happening inside.
Yep. You just solved the energy crisis, Ian.
That's what it is.
Nice.
We can harness the power of a Volkswagen check engine light.
Yeah.
We'll be set.
Yeah. So anyway, we had a nice drive there, and
then once we got there, we got to fuck around and do our dumb Facebook videos.
Yep.
We did a lot of Facebook Live videos, so check those out.
Yep.
But this is going to be dedicated to the meat.
Yes.
The Chewy Center.
Yeah.
That everyone wants to know about these press days, and I feel like it doesn't get a lot of coverage.
You are correct.
So we're going to talk about that, and then we did a couple of rounds of FMK cars with some people that we met there.
Yep.
And then that's pretty much what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So let's start off with the real meat and potatoes.
Sure.
And I think that is the thing that I was most interested in, and it's something that we've kind of touched on in the past on the show, is like the dichotomy between like what the brand perception of a car,
Right.
how much of that is driven by the language or the supply that the automaker has made, versus like what the consumer is demanding.
Yes.
So like the classic example is the SUV boom in the 90s and the 2000s, right? Was that driven by consumer demand, or was that driven by the supply side, right?
Right.
And it's that classic thing. And I think in the automotive space, especially, we were talking about this at lunch, the relationship between the press and the industry is especially, I don't want to say fraught, but it's weirder than it is in most other industries, I think.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And part of it is that there's so much money at stake.
You're right.
You know, these purchases, each individual purchase represents a huge amount of money.
Right.
Really.
Right. Yeah.
And it's, you know, outside, it's really the largest kind of consumer thing that we do. Like, it's not like there's a real estate trade group that's marketing. I mean, I guess there is from like pre-built homes, but that's a pretty niche thing, really, when compared to automotive, which is enormous.
Right.
And what I think is interesting is that like journalists sort of got into this space because they're interested in cars as a rule.
Yeah. I think a lot of them are automotive enthusiasts. Yeah.
And so I think as enthusiasts, they typically have different set of requirements than the general public. And so the message that the automakers want to give to those journalists is inherently mismatched with what the journalists want to hear about.
Right. Because it's targeted to the consumer. Right. Whereas that journalist has, like you said, different requirements because they're approaching it from an enthusiast level, right? They know this kind of minutia about like how a low center of gravity impacts a vehicle. Right. And while something like that might be glossed over in a sales pitch to a customer, right? Like those kinds of things aren't going to be delivered typically to the to the consumer in the form that we heard today, like
right. And so what we want to kind of do with our auto show coverage, such as it is, is kind of get to the root of the language that the brands are using.
Yeah, this was something that I was really glad you caught onto this. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like, you know, we have these, especially, you know, our this being our first experience with an auto show press day.
Yep.
You know, we've been to auto shows before, obviously, but like the press day is interesting because they have press conferences at all the booths, right?
Yep. We went to a few of them today. Yep.
And it was interesting to me that like there's kind of like the you know, like the popular imagination of some of these brands and how narrowly some of the presentations adhered to those things. And it made me wonder if those things had just been engineered from the very beginning.
Right.
Especially with the Mazda one.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Mazda one first. It was the first press conference we went to.
Yeah.
A gentleman discussed the CX-5.
Right.
Mazda's mid-range crossover that replaced the CX-7. So they have the CX-3, the CX-5, and the CX-9. No more 7.
Is that true?
It is true.
Had 3, 5, and 7 in there.
No, the 7 has been defunct for a while now. Yep. Look at me dropping hot Mazda crossover knowledge.
Look at you.
No, because the CX-7 was a car that I actually paid attention to. So I mean, it was one of those sport utility vehicles that had a small four-cylinder turbo engine that was good to drive, and then Mazda killed it.
Right.
Okay. That I thought hit a good balance of space and styling and stuff like that. So anyway, that's why I paid attention to the CX-7. I know it was replaced by the 5 and 9 because they were big fans of the Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin movie, right?
Yeah.
But so the first press conference we saw, and you picked up on a lot of language cues. I picked up more on the environmental cues. So let's talk about your language cues.
So, and I think it's instructive actually to talk about it in the context of the second one that we got to, because I actually didn't start taking notes until we got to the Jeep one.
Right, where
And
you
I
had
was-
something to reflect upon.
And it struck me. So the first one we went to was the Mazda CX-5.
Right.
And then we went to FCA, and they kind of ran most of the middle of the day. And it was a Ram presentation, Ram trucks presentation.
Real quick. Yeah.
They just rammed it right in there. Hey-o!
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah, that high five felt good.
Ian.
Anyway. But then the CX, then we went to the, we heard about the Jeep Compass.
Yep, Jeep Compass Trailhawk Edition.
Which is the most I've thought about the Jeep Compass in my life.
Ever.
But
we got these USB thumb drives.
those things are pretty fucking cool, though.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to the swag at the end of the show.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
we'll stick around till the end of the show.
For swag talk.
We will talk about the swag portion of this because we have a lot to talk about.
Right.
But it struck me. It finally it didn't occur to me to take notes until we got to the Jeep Compass thing. And it was because the argument that they were mounting and it wasn't even the argument, the content of it. It was the language that they used.
Yeah.
For the CX-5 was the Mazda was all very subjective and
emotive,
yes, and almost passive voice, like like very you will feel like not this car will make you feel like, but you will feel like, or the customer will feel like,
instead of you can accelerate from this to this,
exactly.
It was more emotive, more relational, right? Or what's the word I'm trying to think of? Relative, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So just kind of putting things in more oblique concepts than actual hard statistics.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And the FCA presentation, especially when it came to the Jeep Compass, because that kind of competes. Those two vehicles compete with each other.
They do. Yeah.
The Jeep was much more. Presentation was much more about here's what you get for your money. Right.
And also did deep dive into statistics, like significant digits, decimal points were called out.
Yeah.
At one point, she called out the approach angle of the tires. Right. Which is something the Jeep people always pay attention to. Right. But also that it had 0.3 inches of ground clearance more than any other competing brand.
Right.
Ian, that's that much. Right? Like 0.3, like look at that.
A third of an inch.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what they're honing in on.
That's just over a centimeter.
As for exactly. For the information, that's less than a centimeter. Yeah. Right? Because a centimeter is 2.2. Huh.
2.54.
2.54. Oh boy, this
third is a
sucks.
33.33.
Yeah. Can you tell we've been on all day?
Oof.
Anyway, so
But here's the thing, and we're not making a value judgment of one versus the other. I think obviously, and the thing that I related it to was that it was kind of a head versus the heart.
Definitely.
Sort of dichotomy, right?
Yeah.
And so what I immediately leapt to, and this is my own preconceptions that I'm projecting onto this thing, right?
Oh boy.
Absolutely.
Here we go.
Was that the Jeep was a well-argued case for moving to the suburbs.
Okay.
Right? Where it's a head argument.
Right.
You get numbers.
Yes. We're going to provide you with data that will make sense when you see it on paper.
Square footage that you will get for your money, square footage per dollar.
Right.
Right? That's what you get.
Right.
And the Mazda was an argument for living in the city. It was a total heart argument.
Right.
Of of this is the way that you will this is what you will feel after you make this decision. Not even that this product will make you feel that way.
Right.
But you will just have this feeling.
Right.
And I'll admit, I'm more of a sucker towards that language. And it didn't even occur to me until I really started paying attention to the Jeep language.
Right.
And I just really thought that was interesting because neither of them are an accident.
Right, exactly. It's very well designed, very well rehearsed, very
Right.
delivered. Yeah.
And whatever you think about the value of either of them, it's important, I think, to remember that they're not accidental.
Right, exactly. And like you said, this is not a judgment, but it is.
Right.
But the fact that this kind of stuff stood out to you, and complete once you picked up on it, I picked up on it.
Yeah.
And we could really hone in on it. That's the important thing, like that aspect. And the brands delivering that type of data in that language, right? The voice that brand speaks in, what it chooses to speak in about its products is something that literally no one cares about. No.
Well, but no,
Other
I think
than us.
I think it's interesting to think about that stuff in the context of engineering decisions too. Like when we
Definitely.
drive cars, keeping those things in mind, whether those things actually come through.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
because that gives us context for what the goal was.
Right. Does 0.3 inches come through?
Right.
But the fact that they paid attention to ground clearance as a priority, that comes through.
Right. But but here's the thing, is that says to me, because if that thing is a priority, if that is your overarching priority,
Right.
you're not buying that car.
Right.
You're buying a Wrangler.
Right.
That means that used to be your priority.
Right.
And your priorities have been realigned.
Right.
And so now you're buying this. It's a compromise, right?
Right.
So you need to rationalize.
Right. You need to rationalize that compromise.
Right.
Rationalize that compromise.
And I feel like even you could make the same argument for the Mazda.
Uh-huh.
Where, like, that's not the car that you wanted. The car you wanted was the MX-5.
Right. Yeah.
But now you're rationalizing the CX-5.
Because you have a family.
Because you have a family. But
Right.
you get the same feeling as you
Right.
get from the MX-5.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what this whole thing is, right? So, like, the spiritual root of that language for Jeep
Right.
is the Wrangler, and
Right.
everybody knows it.
Exactly.
And the spiritual root for Mazda
is the Miata.
is the Miata, the MX-5, whatever
Right.
you want to call it.
Right.
And everybody knows it.
I like that you had to add MX-5 to that.
Well, that's what it's called now. They don't call it the Miata anymore.
But everybody knows.
Yeah, it's called the Miata. Yeah.
But no, you're exactly right. Yep. That's the root, right?
Right.
Right. And so everything else is just a shadow off of that root. Everything else is just a shadow of the Wrangler with Jeep, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting to kind of dig into the language
Yeah.
that they use instead of paying, because the specs are boring.
Right.
I mean, especially by the time they get to Denver,
Right.
everybody knows the specs of all the cars.
We all, like, the specs are just, all we have to do is look up all the specs.
Right.
Right, in the world. And if you wanted specs, you wouldn't be listening to this show.
So here's what we promise you, dear listeners and viewers,
Yes.
is navel-gazily just getting into language and meaning and philosophy, and I'm already bored.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Let's talk about some fun stuff.
Okay.
Okay. So we saw the CX-5. We really liked the CX-5, right?
I was really impressed with it.
The interior was fantastic. While the guy was giving the presentation to the CX-5, I could, within eye shot, I had the Volvo booth behind him, and my eye kept wandering to the Volvo booth. I was like the bad boyfriend, right? Who like kept looking over his girlfriend's shoulder
At the waitress or something, yeah.
Right, but I was doing that with the CX-5.
You were
and, like,
cheating on the CX-5 with the S90 is what you were talking about.
Yeah, even though
in your mind.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So Mazda maybe put up some baffles. We're going to bring you into this room, into this sensory deprivation tank.
Yeah.
We're going to hit you with the CX-5. Yeah, that was really the only stuff that I noticed, but we like the CX-5. The rear doors open super wide.
Yeah.
It half Dave's. You can see our video on Facebook Live.
And we kind of talked about this in a segment coming up that we'll drop you into with a guy we met at the show named Andrew. But the the interior of the Mazdas now
Yeah.
are what in the market segment what VW used to be 10 15 years ago,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Exactly.
They're really pretty good.
Yeah, they're really good. They're really well thought out.
The driver
they
focused.
feel fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really like them.
Yeah, a nice place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there were some other presentations that we saw. We did go through. We sat through the Volkswagen one,
Right.
and the Nissan one,
The Chrysler Pacifica.
the Chrysler Pacifica,
Very interesting.
the Chrysler Pacifica hybrid.
Yes.
Yeah,
The plug-in hybrid.
which is an interesting car.
Yeah.
And the language they used for it was very interesting. It was the same person
Yep.
giving the Jeep Compass
Yep.
and the Chrysler Pacifica pitch, and they use completely different language.
They really
for
did.
both of them.
They really did.
Yeah.
And she said her name's Kelly. She said one
Yeah,
sentence
you zeroed in on
that
this.
I honed in on.
Yeah.
She said, if you're the type of person that will make the effort to plug it in, then the Chrysler Pacifica e-hybrid is for you.
Yeah.
Right? That
right.
the type, if you are, they're already putting a disclaimer on it
Right.
as to how you should set your expectations around this vehicle.
Yeah.
They're saying you're going to need to bring this level of effort to get the most out of this vehicle, right? Very few people do that. They will say, like, say with the Jeep Wrangler, they will say, if you happen to want to go to the trails or do an off-road thing, you can.
So
right?
I went somewhere else with that statement.
Okay.
Which was, it was an acknowledgement, and not an explicit one, but an implicit acknowledgement of the political reality. That
Right.
like that some
Yeah.
people that this is important to some people,
Right.
but it's sort of fraught to talk about, especially in a room with automotive journalists in it,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so I feel like it was almost like a those guys sort of nudge, right? Like those crazy environmental kooks, right?
Okay.
And I wonder if maybe like in that sort of insular mid-Michigan world where all the automakers are, if that maybe makes more sense than it does in Denver.
Okay.
You know, because in Denver, those people are everybody's friends because
Right.
those are the people who moved here.
Right. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And so I wonder if that line was designed for other markets and
Right.
nobody thought about like, oh, Denver, that might not fly.
Right.
You know, because some of these territories that the salespeople that we met today are huge.
Right. Yeah.
Spanning from sometimes Houston to Denver, which
Right.
is about as far away from each other in every sense of the meaning
Right.
that
Exactly.
you can think of.
Yeah. Right.
Which is kind of crazy that they have to have one pitch for all of those places in
Right.
between.
Right. Yeah.
So
That was very interesting. Seeing the same person deliver such different language about a different product was
right.
fascinating. Yeah. So, so let's talk real quick about the FMK cars that we played with Andrew Gans.
Yes.
Right. So we met Andrew at the RMAP dinner that we went to.
A couple weeks ago.
Yep, exactly. Fantastic guy. You'll hear him running through FMK cars and a discussion about Lincoln.
Yes.
Ian, we
And
talked
also-
about Lincoln a lot.
And also, if you're going to be at all critical of anything that Andrew says, just know that he recently acquired a Saab, so he deserves
Right.
all of our sympathy,
Energy,
and respect.
money. Yeah. Anyway, you're going to hear that now. Twitch, you're not going to hear that.
No, you're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
We're not that
We're-
energetic.
we're cutting
pretty
that in
fucking
later.
Tired,
Yeah. Okay. So after this,
We still got to talk about VW,
and
the VW presentation.
Yep, and sitting in the S90.
And the Nissan.
Yep.
Presentation.
Yep.
And then the Maven thing.
Yes.
We're talking about Maven.
Yes. Okay.
And then we got the FMK cars with Matt. We'll just finish up with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Or do you want to finish up with Maven?
Definitely finish with Maven.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
All right.
And yeah, let's see here. So we had VW, we had Nissan,
Those things are kind of together. Yeah.
We talked about the Chrysler Pacifica, FMK cars with Matt, and then the Maven.
Perfect.
Okay, right?
Perfect. Yeah, and
Okay.
S90 next because that ties into our discussion. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay, here we go. Thank you, Andrew.
That was delightful.
Yes. Suckering someone else to talk about Lincoln with us was fantastic.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go figure. Like one of America's classic brands, we have a lot of opinions about it.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
there's finger wagging
Yeah,
happening.
Exactly. And the words should and right, like all of this.
If only they listened.
Right. But the language that we use when we talk about that brand versus like what we talk about when we say BMW, where it's like, well, this is what they have done. We never talk about BMW and saying like what we think they should do.
Right.
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 So anyway, yeah, just another.
No, actually, that's really good. I want to explore that for just a second.
Okay.
Because it's like when BMW does something that disappoints me, I get irritated and I want to shame them for it. I want to make them sit on the naughty step.
Okay. All right.
For what they've done, X6M. You know what you've done.
Right. Yeah. See our Instagram video.
You know what you did,
Right.
BMW. You know what you did.
Yeah.
You sit there.
And
you
then they
sit there
did
and
it again
think
with
about
the
it.
4.
You sit there and think about it.
Yeah. And they're gonna keep doing it.
But with Lincoln,
Right.
it's more like,
Come on, buddy. Buddy.
man,
Buddy, come on.
You could,
Buddy.
you could,
Lincoln.
but you could have done that.
How but like buddy.
I know you tried. You
Quit.
tried.
Right? Yeah. It's
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
exactly.
BMW, sit the fuck down.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Ian, so after we talked to Andrew, about Lincoln and Volvo under Ford's ownership,
Yes.
and the differences between the two.
Yeah,
we
went and sat in the S90.
Yeah, you went and farted in an S90.
I was farting a lot at that point. It's okay.
Holy
I
crap.
took care of it. We both pooped at the auto show. We
Ugh.
didn't need to say that. I'm sorry. That was my fault. All of those things were my
From
fault.
one super gassy individual to another.
We really
Yeah.
laid our stamp on that place.
Yeah. Sorry, all auto show attendees.
Yeah. Every show every car that you sit in at the Denver Auto Show, we farted
probably
in
farted.
it. We farted in it before you got there. Sorry about that. But not sorry enough not to do it. Yay! All right. So anyway, so we were in the Lincoln Continental.
Yes.
And I said that it was the greatest, the most innovative car of the 1968 Denver Auto Show.
Right.
I stand by that. I think that was apt. But then we went and sat in the S90.
Right.
And the S90 was less ambitious,
Yep.
but better executed, and therefore a better luxury interior.
Oh, yeah. The interior, first of all, the exterior is fantastic.
Yes.
Interior, amazing. Well done, Volvo.
Right. And
Yeah.
here's where I think we can kind of make a differentiation, is that the more luxurious you're aiming to be,
Right.
the narrower the gap between your ambition and your execution can be.
Right. Exactly.
So like if you're making a hatchback, a fun hatchback, you can make some crazy design decisions and miss in the execution,
Right.
and it's still charming.
Exactly.
But if it's a luxury car and you do that,
Yeah.
ooh,
No. When you come at the king.
you best not miss.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the Link and it's really interesting that Lincoln and Volvo were both owned by Ford,
Right.
like 10 years apart from each other. Like the S90 and the Continental are like,
Sister brothers.
yeah. That
Sis-
relationship is really weird, and
Yeah.
I didn't think about it until Andrew brought it up.
Yeah. Sister cousin brothers.
Yes, it's
Right.
it's a very interesting dichotomy between those
Right.
two cars. And I mean, I know which one I would rather have.
Right.
There's no question.
Yeah, obviously a Buick Encore. No, the S90 hands down. But so sitting in the S90, fantastic, perfect amount of technology and luxury.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is also a fully level 2 autonomous car. standard,
Yeah.
right?
And that's just what happens when you know, they have a very solid idea of what that brand is,
Right.
and basically unlimited resources
Yeah.
to just do it.
Yeah.
It's pretty
And
amazing.
also, I think that the S90 is a good example of picking your battles, right?
Mhm.
They chose to make decisions in certain areas, like we talked about in our Facebook Live video, where they didn't try to make a push button transmission. No, they still
Yeah,
stuck
they
with the
didn't
normal-
reinvent the
right
the
exactly
transmission.
right, because
stock
they
thing.
you only have so many resources when you're doing anything.
Right.
They chose to devote those resources into an amazing sound system, perfect
good
fit,
materials.
yeah, perfect
materials
fit
is-
and finish.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, we love the S90 and we both want one. Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's
Absolutely.
talk about Volkswagen.
Okay. Yeah. So going back to language and how brands communicate themselves to people. So the Volkswagen thing was interesting.
Yeah.
Because
It was for the
especially-
Volkswagen Atlas, their new big car.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like a competitor to a Toyota 4Runner, Volvo XC90, you
Right.
know, yeah.
7-seat
Audi
thing.
Q7.
And you actually fit in
Yep,
the back of it pretty well.
I did. I wouldn't want to spend tons of time back there, but up until then, the XC90 was the only third row seat that I
Yeah.
could fit in.
It's another MQB Jam.
Yeah.
But what was interesting to us was that their presentation was all about market placement and
strategy. Volkswagen has finally entered this segment of the market,
Yeah.
and now we are a strategic offering.
Right. And
Yeah.
it wasn't and so like if you go back to like how Mazda was. So Mazda was, this is how our customers will feel after they buy this product.
Right.
The Jeep and the Ram thing were like, these are the problems that we're solving in hard numbers and statistics.
Yep.
In very
Yep.
cold and calculating sort of
Right.
things. But the VW one was like the most cynical of all of the
Yeah.
presentations that we saw, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way, because that obviously that same calculation goes into all of these cars.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Product
nobody's just banging this out the night before.
Right. And
Yeah.
and obviously all of everything, like the feelings from the Mazda thing, the hard numbers from the FCA presentations, and the cynicism of the VW presentation, all of those elements go into every single car that gets put onto the market.
Right.
It's just interesting which elements get communicating out to the world, right? And I feel like maybe it's just that that Volkswagen still feels like they have enough cachet in those other departments where they can just, this is the segment that we're now in,
Right.
and now that we have something in this segment, you're going to buy it.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to fucking buy it. Right.
You know,
Right.
maybe that's all it is. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
We wouldn't have done this if you wouldn't buy it. So here's the car. Fucko.
right. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if that's what it is, or
Right.
it was
There's
just
almost some hubris to it.
yeah, a little. Hubris is a good way to describe their last 2 years.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. So so we went to after that we went to Nissan,
Yeah.
right? And the language that Nissan used was very interesting as well, because it was a presentation about the Nissan Titan,
Yes.
right? And Nissan was making a large effort through this presentation to establish itself as a legitimate utilitarian truck,
Yeah.
right? Because it's never been seen as something that is a fleet vehicle where you would see Chevy, Ford, Dodge, Toyotas
Right.
tried to get into that for a while now. So these like utilitarian fleet trucks, Nissan is making a big push with the feature sets that are available, like a rear seat delete and things like that, to enter this fleet utilitarian market. And so it was language that was devoted to establishing to communicating the thought and the design and all of the energy that went into making those things, like an AC outlet in the bed of the truck,
Right.
like talking about all of those things and making sure that that people understood that there is no reason why you shouldn't consider this as a legitimate
Work truck.
utilitarian work truck. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And they weren't saying things like, they did talk about how it's the Rocky Mountain Automotive Press truck of the year, like a lot of these kinds of things and awards, and its capacity. But that kind of stuff was not really rammed down our throats with statistics to back it up. It was just like, these are the awards, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting too, because it was a really like much more like narrow, kind of twist on the kind of the same theme as like the Jeep and FCA language, right?
Yeah.
But just like geared towards one really narrow segment of the population.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they even said there was like 17% of the market,
right?
And that's where they spent all of their energy.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
Yeah.
But interesting.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if they're just focusing on the like, well, I had a Nissan Titan at work. I would buy one for home, like, or like that kind of like that.
I don't know.
Right. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah.
All right. So
after that,
so we went to
a happy hour.
Yeah. And it was noisy, and so of course we decided to try to record an FMK card.
Exactly, with Matt Pilgrim from the Pilgrim Motor Press.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're going to hear next. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Maven, and we will talk about the swag that we got and how you can get your hands on this hot shit.
Yep, that's right. All right, let's hear FMK Cars with Matt. Twitch, you're not going to see any of this.
You don't get any of this shit.
Because we're too lazy to cut it in live.
And is YouTube going to get any of this?
Nope.
So YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube,
you
should probably just go ahead and download the podcast.
Yes, do that.
Go to the TeamClearCoat.com.
Yep.
Yeah. All this is going to be cut out of the audio version.
Yep, exactly. You won't hear this on the podcast.
Nope.
Yep.
And so you just get our random ramblings on the Twitch stream and on the YouTubes.
Yep. Let's talk about Maven and wrap this shit up because I'm falling asleep.
I can tell, Abe
Yeah.
Pagoda.
Yeah. Right?
I also like that you don't drink, but like me having like 4 or 5 drinks in is exactly the same as you with just like, I'm a little sleepy.
Right. Exactly.
All right.
Oh, God. Okay. All right. Here we go. We're going to talk about Synergy Maven. Here we go. Ian.
Dave. All right. So,
and Matt, thank you again for playing FMK Cars with us.
Yes, that was a lot of fun. Even though you tried to cheat.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So the last big topic that we want to talk about the auto show was that the dinner we had was sponsored by GM,
General Motors,
and they gave a very short spiel.
They did
about Maven.
Yes.
And
Ian, what is Maven?
Okay, so Maven is their answer to the perceived problem that millennials aren't buying cars.
Right.
And so it's their mobility solution, right? And so it's sort of it's sort of a hybrid almost between like Lyft and Car2Go and a lease option. Right. It's sort of in the middle.
Borrowing your parents' car.
Yeah, it's sort of in the middle of all of that.
Yeah.
And I have what do you call them? Thoughts.
Really? Let's get into it.
Welcome to Team ClearCoat.
Woo! We have thoughts.
All right. So they began their presentation talking about millennials.
Yep.
And I perked up because I am technically the oldest millennial on the planet.
Yep, you are. You were born like right when they coined the term, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like because I was gonna graduate in the year 2000. That's what it meant, right?
Yeah.
So I will be 35 this year. I am the oldest millennial.
Yep.
And so I have opinions
Son of a bitch.
about this shit. So their pitch was that millennials aren't buying cars.
Right. Or that they're delaying those purchases.
They're delaying these purchases. They're delaying big decisions in their lives.
Because they prefer experiences over objects.
Right. Because these are the things. They prefer experiences. They live in big cities, in city centers.
Yep.
And they have their finances are just different than their parents.
Right.
Right. And so their solution to this is to kind of do away almost or provide an alternative to the idea of ownership.
Right. Different models of ownership.
Right. And I think that's fundamentally real fucking stupid.
Okay.
I think that is engineering around the workaround that millennials have found for the problems that existed. Right.
Right. They
So-
don't want to deal with car maintenance, car insurance, or anything like that.
Right.
So they move to a city center where they have to use a car less, and then they take a ride share for when they do.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think it's I don't think if you asked a millennial person point blank, would it be nice to own a car?
Right.
If you didn't have to have any other considerations, if no practical considerations existed,
Sure.
I don't think that their answer would be any different than anyone else's.
You're exactly right.
Right? So instead of attacking that problem,
Right.
that there are practical considerations standing in the way of the thing that they want,
Right.
they are instead going after the workaround that millennials have arrived at,
Right.
which is inherently a compromised solution.
What
right?
is the workaround they arrived at?
The workaround they arrived at is car sharing.
Right. And
Right.
That's what I said, right?
Yeah. We're saying the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, okay. So my thing is like instead of doing that, instead of expending millions and millions of dollars to
Right.
develop software and infrastructure and all of these things to then provide a service for what is essentially a stopgap until the person can afford to own a car and put up
Right.
with the hassle that entails with their situation, why not just attack the situation directly and buy up parking garages
Right.
in city centers and
Right.
say if you buy a GM,
You get to park here for free, for life. Tesla did that with the superchargers, where they said
Right.
you buy a Tesla Model S by this period of time, you get charging for life for free.
right?
Right?
And this would be a solution that would be, I mean, infinitely
Yeah.
cheaper. It's got to be. It's
Right.
got to be cheaper because at the end of the day, you own property first of all.
Exactly.
Then think about the software and the support structure that comes with being a software company and all of
Right.
that other stuff that GM of all companies is fucking ill-equipped to deal with.
Right.
I just don't understand why they're attacking it this way. It seems really circular and dumb, but
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, if anybody was equipped to implement something in a somewhat rapid method to change the way that millennials, to change at what point millennials buy a car throughout their life, it would be a corporation with tons of resources, right? But historically, it seems like the people that have made the most waves are just apps that pop up on your goddamn phone. And then these apps, like, through use, will get just large cash infusions
right.
to evolve and think about the future of their own app and cars as a whole, right? I mean, that's what Lyft and Uber are doing, right? And so you'd think that somebody with the most resources from the get-go would be able to kind of swoop in and stay ahead of this.
Right.
But that historically, that's never happened. The music industry, the book industry, any of this stuff.
Yeah, they're slow
Right?
to move. Yeah,
Right.
and they
Right.
instead react to like,
Yeah.
what's the workaround been?
Right.
Let's do that.
Let's see if we can figure out a way to
Let's monetize that.
Right. Yeah. So they're plugging the leak, right, instead of ignoring that, like, the dam has been overflowing for a while.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Instead of just making the dam higher, right? Because no matter what, that leak is going to be there, right? But
Yeah.
yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's. But you know what? Those major automakers are definitely going to be able to run their own autonomous software.
True. We're gonna trust them to store that data safely. Anyway, Ian, let's pick it up. Let's talk about some cool stuff because
Yes.
listeners, we did something for you. We were very altruistic in grabbing swag from vendors from manufacturers.
Yes.
And selling our soul. I sold my soul for a sugar cookie and a coffee today.
You should have had like 6 more of them, judging from whatever's happening over here.
To bring you.
All right. So what are we doing with this stuff? What's our game plan?
So
here?
I think any listener that sends us an FMK Cars,
okay,
right, gets a piece of swag.
All
and so we have some great thumb drives from.
We have 2 of those.
Yeah, we have 2 of those. We have 4. We're keeping 2.
We're keeping 2.
Right.
Those are the only things we're keeping.
Exactly. Right.
They're kind of cool. They're actual metal.
Yeah.
Like
right?
aluminum.
And they're waterproof. They have an O-ring seal on them.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Right. And so there you go. Yeah.
What size are they?
Who knows? Yeah. But send us an FMK Cars, and we will send.
There's only like 6 viruses on them.
Exactly. We will send you a lightly infected, somewhat sneezed on.
Plug it into your work computer first, and just make sure everything's okay. Yeah. We have not inspected. We don't know what's on those, so
at all.
We are not liable.
Buyer beware.
We also have Chrysler. Can I see? What's going on over here?
Can I see? Here.
Am I holding it?
Yeah.
In a good
let me
spot?
minimize that. Yeah. Here you go. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Chrysler
hats,
which are you know stylish.
Yeah.
Would we say that?
I don't know. Yeah. So.
Over the headphone thing.
We have Chrysler hats. So send us a Chrysler-themed FMK Cars for the Chrysler hats.
How about a
Jeep-themed FMK Cars or off-road themed?
Do you like
FMK
how we're just
cars?
making this shit up as we go along? It's
Ian,
almost
that's
like
the
whole
thing. Podcast.
All right, well, here's another one. Here's a Mazda.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep. Mazda MX-5.
I think it's just Mazda. Is there any?
Oh, yeah. No, there isn't.
Mazda. Oh, wait. What does this say? Driving matters. Oh,
driving.
Like
so a Mazda hat.
Yeah, Mazda
right?
hat.
Yeah, this actually I would almost wear that hat. Yeah,
handsome.
It's nice. But
handsome.
Listeners, that's for you.
Yeah.
The thumb drives. All
right, and then also available if someone has a really good minivan themed.
Yeah.
And actually, I think the Pacifica of the things that we got the presentations on.
Yeah.
Pacifica, I think, was probably the most impressive vehicle of all.
It was, yeah.
It's the only one we didn't sit in as well.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Exactly.
But we have notebooks.
Yeah. It does.
Everyone
have some
wants a notebook with a minivan on it.
Yeah, we have some. There's some marketing bullshit in the front of it.
You can rip that out.
You can rip that out.
But then it's just
nice.
Yeah.
Then it's just look at that.
It's a good size, actually.
Yeah, and it's spiral bound, so it's very. So I noticed spiral bound is really good for the lefties. Because you can
absolutely you can flip it over.
Yeah, exactly. And drawing on a spiral bound is nice.
You could totally, if you're left-handed, you could totally use this upside down.
And this back cover is like really thick. Look at that.
Yeah, it's
what
like
the hell is that?
And I think are these rip-proof pages? No, they're not. So there's one slightly damaged
notebook. Right. So send us. Just send us something about why you would actually want a Chrysler Pacifica hybrid.
If you're the type of person who would plug it in.
Yeah, right?
And then we have Jeep ones, too.
Yeah, we have some Jeep notebooks.
Do we have 2 of those?
Yeah, we have 2 of those.
Do I have one?
I don't know.
Oh, no, you've got 2. You've got 2.
Yeah.
You got those 2.
Yeah, so there's no marketing BS. They just say Jeep, and they're really nice.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Is like you got to put up with a couple pages of marketing stuff in the Chrysler one.
Yeah.
Oh no, it says Chrysler on every page, doesn't it?
Oh, just Sharpie that out. But then
Oh, and hashtag Pacifica hybrid.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
And then
because everyone tweets about their minivan.
Exactly. Right.
On the daily.
Yep. So send us some emails, FMK Cars, and this stuff can be yours. We'll fill them with stickers.
Or if you have a good FMK Cars about hashtag brands,
right?
We'll just give you one of these, and it'll be dealer's choice.
Yep, exactly.
We'll give you all the. We'll just do this. We'll just.
Right, exactly. And I'll do this with the Pacifica notebook.
That's all.
Yeah, there we go.
Perfect.
Right, Ian.
This is the screen cap for this episode.
This is how you make a podcast, buddy. Yeah. How do I do that? I do Alt print screen. There we go.
So I will say, while we have our serious hats on, for a second, that everyone at the Denver Auto Show that we interacted with.
Yes, we actually need to be serious about this because it's.
I'm keeping this on for the serious part.
It comes from the heart. Yeah.
Oh, this is as serious as I.
Everyone we talked to, manufacturer, automotive press.
Yes.
Every single person we interacted with was amazing. They were very nice,
enthusiastic that we were there.
Yeah, treated us with courtesy, respect. We don't deserve any of that.
Yeah.
We're in a fort of blankets.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit earlier today about how when people are nice, I'm immediately suspicious.
Yeah, you want to know what their
What's
end
your
game
angle?
is. Yeah, exactly.
What's your angle?
Fix your microphone.
What's wrong with it?
It's all
fine.
angled.
It's fine.
It's fine.
What's your angle?
What's your angle?
Nice person.
Right? Yeah. But
Inherently distrustful of you.
no, but everybody was super nice to talk to. We talked to some fantastic people from Nissan for quite some time.
Yeah, it was great.
You ran into people from your neighborhood, like at
I
everyone
ran
we
into
talked to.
so many people that were from like 10
Areas-
miles from where I've lived
Yeah.
in like 6 different locations.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. And we had a great time.
Yeah.
But I feel like we do need to for this to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
For what we do,
Yep.
we need to maintain some sort of distance.
Yep, exactly.
And the analogy I used before was that like Jane Goodall loved the gorillas that she observed.
Yep.
She didn't ever join them.
Right,
Right? She
exactly.
never became a gorilla herself.
Right.
And that's what we have to do.
We got to be Jane Goodalls. Right?
Serious automotive journalist.
That's one to grow on. Ian,
Yes.
thanks for doing a podcast with me since 2015.
Thank you, Dave. And also, I'm glad that you are the energetic interpersonal half of this because I would have lasted
Dude.
about 10 minutes.
It's tough. We're the wind beneath each other's wings, Ian. All right, buddy?
Yeah.
Ah.
The win. Check out TeamClearCoat.com. That's the end of the plugs. Boom. Boom. Make it rain hats.
This has been the Team Clear Coat podcast.
We love all of you.
We love you.